Welcome back, everybody. If you're new here, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. My name is Julie. I hope all is well with everyone. Well, I'm here to tell you guys how I bought my apartment. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm trying to make it quick, so it's a quick one to upload, but I'm here to let you guys know it's an easy process. It's not as hard as it might seem to some people. Some people make it seem everything seems difficult, but it's not. I was one of the lucky ones. I pretty much like buck up, as they call it, on my property. Well, one of my property. At the time, I bought that apartment pretty much out of convenience, or it was just there. It was my luck in a sense, and it was like, you ever been somewhere and not knowing that's exactly where you was gonna live, but you could feel it. You're not knowing that you're gonna live there, but you could feel that you're gonna live there. Anyways, I went to look at this property in Stony Hill, and I met with this man, which was very rude at the time. He became nice to me after a while because he realized how I was purchasing the property. He kept on trying to find out about my finances, how I'm going to buy this, how I'm going to buy it, because I did locate him at the time through a realtor, but the realtor couldn't meet with us, so I wound up meeting him on my own. Anyways, I went ahead and looked at the property, but I did not like it because this is what happened now. The building was situated almost like a tenement yard. Anybody know how a tenement yard set up? It's pretty much like everybody, the units was attached. Kitchen was pretty much like you looking through the kitchen window and you're looking at almost like at a wall. It's a window there, but it's a wall, which is not safe because the person could be inside of the building, and you know what I mean, get in. So that was a cross off for me. The next problem with the property was the sewer system wasn't finished taken care of at the time, but people was living on the property, which it was visible to me that something else was going on with the sewer. I could smell it. That was part of a no-no for me. The next thing about it was the parking space was not adequate, because I believe that you're supposed to at least have 2 cars to be able to park 2 cars in an apartment complex, especially a 2-bedroom apartment. That's what it was labeled at. But the biggest problem of it all was the fact that the bedroom was tiny, plus one of the bedroom was extremely tiny. To me, it almost looked like a closet, a walk-in closet. Anyways, he labeled it as a 2-bedroom. So when we, started talking, he started telling me that no, that's the way, it's okay for kids, whatever. I'm like, no, it's not okay for my children. That's too tiny. Anyways, he started talking, saying he was building some more because he did have space on the land, and this was in Stony Hill at the time. He owned a few acres, so he was going to go ahead and build more, whatever. But I needed somewhere at that time. I wasn't going to wait. I needed somewhere within the next 5 months or so. So anyways, at that time I was living in Beverly Hills, but I wanted to move to Stony Hills. I was trying to get several property down on the flat, but it didn't work out for me in Beverly Hills. When I went ahead and look at one, someone already made an offer on it, which that's the one I really wanted, but I didn't get it. After I started the process on the new property, which I finally got, they called me and to tell me that the deal that they had originally with someone else fell through. Any given way. When I got to this property with the man, like I was telling you about the tenement yard situation, at that time, the funny thing about it, I went there and I didn't know this was going to be where I'm living at. Not that his place, but the fact that neighborhood. I remember looking up on the hill, seeing a bunch of apartments, but I never thought nothing of it. Drove off, went back, because I wasn't, for one, why I even wasn't so happy with him, because he kept on digging in, how you gonna pay for, blah blah, which is okay. But even when I tell him, he kept on asking questions, insisting that he want copy of bank statement, blah blah, which I wasn't going to give to him, because for one, I didn't want to live there. I had it on me, but I wasn't going to live there, and that's not the case. I was paying for cash, which I didn't make that clear to him either fully, but I just told him something. Anyways, long story short, finally went into the Gleaner, found a place. The property that I looked at, I started proceeding to go pay for one, put a deposit on one other apartment. That I forgot the name of that particular building. I went to Abbey's Court. That building, I liked it, the apartment. It was a little bit more pricey, but I was okay with it. But at the time, someone also made an offer on it, and I think it was a favor because they also had a realtor. I didn't have any realtor at the time. A realtor is kind of good, but at the same time it costs, and I didn't have the money to pay them no $400,000 or $500,000. Honestly, I didn't. So I didn't go along with it. I went ahead and tried to do it on my own. What I did was I went ahead and got me a lawyer. because a lawyer could pretty much do everything for you. A realtor is good to find you the property, but it's not necessarily needed in Jamaica. You don't necessarily need, only person you really need in Jamaica to help you purchase a property is a lawyer. That's it, and your money. That's it. You don't need anything else. I'm gonna give you a little backstory now on how kind of like God worked in mysterious ways. My intention was to buy a house. When I went to look at this particular house, 2 houses, I'm gonna tell you what happened. The first house was over there in Portmore. When I went to Portmore house, in the back of the house, it was the sea. That was a no-no for me because it seemed like the water was practically in the backyard. All it had to do was whoosh up on up. Also, when I went inside of the house, the floor was cold. Now that was a turn off as well because I believe that water was up underneath the bottom, and that's why they're trying to get rid of it. Plus, it was too cheap and too good to be true. Anyway, I did not like that one. I went ahead, had made an appointment with a woman, and all of these properties I'm talking about, I went ahead and contacted these people by using the Gleaner. Excuse me, the Sunday Gleaner to be exact. And I found these property. One lady out in Old Alberta had an apartment complex. I forgot what it's called. Something, I could be wrong. Anyways, nevertheless, I went ahead and called her, and she said meet her on like a Sunday or something after church. But at that time the rain was falling really, really bad, like the day before, and the Sunday wasn't so bad, but the day before and I think the Friday was very bad. It was a lot of rain. So I'm calling this woman. She didn't answer me at first, then she finally answered me and said I couldn't come today because something is wrong at the house, which was a house. It wasn't an apartment, it was a house. And I'm like, okay, when can we meet? So she's telling me like we won't be able to meet like for a week. So I'm like, a week? I can't wait for a week. I need to get this done now because I had to leave in a couple of days to come back to the States. She said to me, the house is underwater. So I dodged a bullet right there. I told her thank you. I never answered her call like after that because it wasn't necessary. And not only that, I made a few phone calls and I met this gentleman. Matter of fact, I spoke with him first on the phone. Then I met with him at the apartment. Ironically, I passed the same apartment I was looking at originally to purchase. And like I said, when I look up on that hill, I saw an apartment complex. That's the apartment complex he had an apartment in. Anyways, I went ahead and looked at the property. The tile was raggedy and stuff. I didn't make it bother me too much, but it was cute and it was in my price range. Not only that, remember, I'm purchasing it by cash. Not only that, the reason why I wasn't going ahead and I couldn't, it's not like I couldn't, it would have been a lot of stress on me because I still had a mortgage on a house in Jamaica at the time. So I didn't want to go ahead, and then the bank would have gave me a hard time anyways, you know, with a lot of paperwork and stuff. So I was trying to pretty much to go out and get this property for cash because what I was heading to do. Anyways, long story short, I went ahead and met with him, and I had my lawyer at the time, but when I spoke with the man, he was like, you know, he worked for the Gleaner, pretty much, the man, and he said he had his lawyer, which we could both use the same lawyer and it's cheaper. He didn't really want to use mine either, but being as though I'm the one that wants the property, I went ahead with him, his lawyer, which, to be frank, or fair, more like it was cheaper to use his lawyer than mine, even if we both did it together. Anyways, we went ahead. I didn't know it would be so smooth to go ahead and use a lawyer to purchase something, especially when you're using cash, because before, when my first purchase, to be honest, it was not. I had to go through a whole bunch of stuff because I was taking out a loan at that time, which honestly, if I knew, because I was trying to save money, I didn't want to go ahead. I just went ahead and used a loan officer and did the process and got the loan for the home, which it was nice, but it was something that, anyway, that's another story to talk about for that property. And that's why I would opt into anyone. If you could just buy land and just take your time and build a house, it's better than to ever buy anything or mortgage anything in Jamaica, because a lot of people cannot do without mortgage, but borrowing money to mortgage a home in Jamaica, trust me, it can stress you out just as much as if you live in America. Anyways, long story short, I went ahead and purchased the home, the apartment more like it. It's not like I needed to live in it right away. I just wanted to have it. And you know, money goes. When you have a certain amount of money, you want something, you want to have something, you're making sure that you get it. Anyways, I went ahead and got the property. Then after I got the property, no, that's not how it went. I remember going through the lawyer, did the whole paperwork. It was so many different things, but it was, like I said, it was smooth sailing. I would advise anyone, when it came down to it, I did go to a realtor, but when I went to the realtor, they want so much money, and I was not going to pay that extra 2, 3, 4, 500, and depends on the price of your home. That's the percentage you have to pay the realtor. Plus, you have to pay your lawyer at least 4 to 5%, depends on the kind of house you're getting, the purchase, the work they got to do depends. Which, in fairness, it wasn't that much for me, but I know for a fact it's like 5 right now percent, depends on the lawyer. Percent and of the property, which is a lot of money. Some you could talk down to 2.5 to 3, but depends on the amount of money, the building you're buying or property you're buying. That's how it is with a lawyer. So if you trying to save in any department, it's best to save from the realtor if you can, by trying to source your property by yourself. If you can, you could use the Gleaner, you could use the classified ads on the internet, you could use the Observer. Sometimes they have a few places in there, and I usually get the Sunday Gleaner. Sometimes word of mouth, sometimes driving around and see the for sale signs. Yes, it's realtor, but you necessarily don't have to use them to purchase the property. All you need to know the number and call, get your lawyer, and you could do the rest. You don't need them. And yes, you will save a lot of money. The thing is, when I went ahead and we started the process, I didn't realize that I would get the key so quickly. The only held up was, even though it was a hold up to a sense, but not really, for me to get my title, was the NHT. The man had a loan on his building, or more like his apartment, from NHT. NHT took them 6 months to turn the paperwork over, even though they got the money to release it. And that's why I will never use NHT for anything. And I don't understand like why people use them. Well, I do understand why people use them, but at that time I didn't necessarily need it. If I needed to use it at the time, I would have. But that particular property, I didn't. And I was so grateful. And like I said, it's smooth sailing when you use a lawyer and you do not have to involve the realtors. That's the point I'm trying to make. And it's easy. And that's how I came by it. And yes, I purchased my property when I was in my early age. I don't tell people what, because a lot of people get curious and start talking a lot of crap. Anyways, if you come this far in the video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. God bless. Thank you for watching. If you are planning to buy a property in Jamaica, a few little advice I'm going to give to you. If you are thinking about buying a property, and even if you're thinking about using an agent, think about this. When you use a realtor or agent in Jamaica, you do have to pay the same amount of, or whatever percentage they put on that piece of paper and give it to you. Now remember this, at the closing, you're going to have to pay that purchase price, regardless of what you might feel. So in my case, I did not use a realtor. I looked for myself. I went ahead and I went around, search. I remember classifieds. I didn't use the internet at the time. It wasn't the internet, but I did go to the Gleaner classifieds. I remember a few more other papers, or somebody gave me something of a listing, but it was never through a realtor. I've used, and it's not it wasn't my first rodeo purchasing anything, but this is what I did for this particular property. I went ahead and just got me a lawyer, which I had my own lawyer, but I did not wind up using my personal lawyer. I did use the lawyer that the man recommended, which is the seller. I found him, and he pretty much, it was an easy process for me. It wasn't hard because I was buying the property cash, so it made everything a little bit easier. When I was buying before and I used the mortgage, it was a whole lot more work and a whole lot of stress. Not only that, I also had to pay for a realtor, so it's different. And I'm telling you, it's a struggle when you're doing anything in Jamaica, but there's few things you can do to cut out costs, and to be honest, is using a realtor. That's a big chunk of change when it comes down to it. And it also depends on the price of the property. So if you're pretty much doing a purchase and it's in the millions, which is going to be in the millions, don't get me wrong, I know what I'm talking about. A lawyer usually wants a certain percentage, then you have a realtor want a certain percentage. So if you cut out anyone, which is a major person I cut out all the time, is a realtor. I don't mess with the realtor. I do it on my own. And I'm not suggesting that you do that, but that's how I save back on money, and it have worked for me. Because everything is going to pretty much boil down to your lawyer doing all the work. food for thought.